Hi folks, my name's Jenny. You may already know that, or you may not, especially given the nature of this video. I make ukulele tutorials and workshops and sing-along jams and arrangements and all kinds of stuff like that, specifically on and with ukulele, a lot of it free and on YouTube, some of it over on Patreon where I have patrons who support me and allow me to make even more content, so come over and join us if you're interested. And I have been making this series, the One Take tutorials, for a couple of years now. I think this is about my 36th video in this series, maybe 37th. And they are live and unedited. You see my mistakes. We all learn from them, especially me. And I have been making these to help share publicly with as many people as possible some of my favorite songs and skills and things about the ukulele. And a lot of these come from requests from my Patreon patrons, from people who watch my YouTube videos, from my own what I want to do, my own brain making requests. So this month I thought I'd do something a little different, which is why I said I wouldn't be surprised if some of you have never seen one of my videos before, because you might have found this under a search because you have a new ukulele and you haven't been playing it very long. And I wanted to make a series, hopefully, if people are interested in this video, of Beginner Toolkit for ukulele, skills and chords and things that can get ukulele players playing quickly, even if you've never played an instrument before. A little bit about me. My background as a kid in music lessons was playing piano and violin, but I didn't do either of them particularly well. I was pretty mediocre at both. And I've always sung in amateur and church type choirs. So I am not a professional singer. I'm not a professional musician. I do teach now, both in person and online. And I enjoy ukulele teaching very much. And I love to play. But my style of teaching is not for everybody, and I know that, and there are lots and lots of good ukulele teachers out there. So if this video is not for you, it will not hurt my feelings. You can move on to the next one, or you may be watching this as part of watching as many beginner ukulele videos as you can, which is what I probably did when I was first starting out. So welcome, no matter how you ended up here, and I hope you'll find something in this video that you can take away and use. I will put timestamps in the description box of this video so you can skip around, because maybe this is the 7th beginner ukulele video you've watched and you don't need another person telling you how to play the C chord. So feel free to customize it. I like to say, this is not my own phrase, of course, this is very cliche and hackney, but I like to say, make it work for you, because I think that's really important. There are very few rules or one-size-fits-all solutions, and people find different ways to accommodate different abilities, physicalities, and what you're looking for. I will say that this video is going to be geared more, and this series will be geared more to a sing and strum kind of a player. I do like to play finger picking, and I do some instrumental playing on my own, finger style people call it sometimes. You may or may not have heard that term yet. But I am not necessarily going to be teaching you how to read tab and things like that unless we get far along enough in this series that people want me to make a video on that. So I'm going to start off with chords and a little bit of strumming, and we'll sort of progress like I do with my personal, in-person rather, private students that I teach here in New York City or online. So this series actually came to my mind because I've been teaching a new student, and they had never played ukulele before, and they didn't play guitar, and they, really hadn't played an instrument in years. And so I was going back to the fundamentals, and I thought, although there are a lot of videos on this type of thing on YouTube, again, everybody learns differently. Why not make one more? So that's a long enough introduction. You may have already skipped it and you're not even listening to me right now, which is fine. I've got a handout that will be free on the Patreon post that will be linked in the description box. That will be public for everybody. You don't need to be one of my Patreon patrons to see it. So feel free to grab that if you want. I'll also be sharing it on the screen. So what we're going to talk about are sort of the basic fundamentals that I might talk about with a student on our first or second lesson. And I really want to keep it as simple as I can. If you have been following my content, I like to give choices and options and ways to level up and layer on and different strums you could use, and here's how you could pick it. I love doing that sort of thing. But I'm going to try to keep it real simple for today's video. So we'll see how it goes. You let me know if this was helpful to you and what was most helpful to you. Also, I just have to plug a totally free thing, which is that you can come to my beginner play-along jams online as well. I do 2 per month, and then also 2 mixed level play-along jams that have some songs in it that might be too tricky for true beginners. But you're welcome to come to any of those. The beginner ones happen here on YouTube for everyone. The mixed level ones happen on Zoom for everyone. And there are also replays of older beginner play-along jams that are publicly available in a playlist here on YouTube that I will put in the description box here on this video. So you can check those out. Sometimes those are helpful for strumming along as you're just learning the chords and how to even do single strums as you're changing chords. More on that in a minute. So when we first sit down together, if we were doing a lesson together and we were looking at your ukulele, we might talk about what size ukulele you have and what tuning ukulele you have. I don't want to go into great detail here. I don't want to confuse the issue. But there are many sizes and permutations of ukulele. Most of them have 4 strings, but not even all of them. And most of them are this size or bigger. This is a soprano ukulele specifically. It is often beginners are often told different things by people, and there's not one right answer. Sometimes people are told, get a soprano, it's the most standard size. And sometimes people are told, oh, it's too small, and if you have long fingers or big hands, you won't be able to play it. Well, I find that people of all sizes and shapes can play whatever size they're motivated to play, but many people for their first ukulele have either a soprano or a concert size, which is what this is. Now these are 2 different shapes, and they may look the same size, but this one is that's the soprano, that's more of a guitar shape. That is the smaller instrument. It also has a shorter fretboard, which most of them do. Again, there's no 100%, so there's lots and lots of variations. But this concert size, this shape is sometimes called pineapple. You don't need to know that, but it is. But most of the time beginners come to me with one of these 2 sizes. There's also a bigger size called tenor, and then there's an even bigger one called baritone, and there's a couple that are even smaller. There's lots out there. But you probably have an ukulele that is tuned one of these 2 ways. I have 2 here to show you. This is the most traditional C tuning. There's older tunings too, so don't come for me, ukulele teachers who want me to mention every single thing in the first video. The C tuning, which refers to our lowest note here, that's the C string. The second one from your face if you're a right-handed player, and I'm a right-handed player, so I'm sorry to lefties. I will be doing everything backwards from the way you may want to learn. Unless you're a lefty who's decided you want to learn right-handed, then I would suggest that you could watch this video. But if you are wanting to learn left-handed, I would find a left-handed video because this may get very confusing very fast. I'm playing right-handed, and the string closest to my face is actually the G string. And on this tuning, which we call high G, that is the highest, or not the highest, sorry, it is higher than that C string I just played, which was my lowest note. We call this re-entrant tuning sometimes as well, but it's high G tuning. G, you can play these 2. C, I'm just taking my thumb down each string. E, A. GCEA. It's actually a great exercise to just practice doing 1 string at a time with your thumb in a downward motion. You can rest your fingers on the body of the ukulele if that's helpful to you. G, C, B, A. We'll tune it in a second if it's sounding different from mine. It's helpful to memorize those strings, and many people will come up with something fun. You know, GCEA each stands for something. You know, that I've heard like grandma chews. We're live. Grandma chews every apple. GCEA. Grandma chews every apple. That's the high G tuning. You'll also hear people refer to the old sort of song melody, My Dog Has Fleas. My dog has fleas. If you can play My Dog Has Fleas on your ukulele, then you have a high G tuning. The other one that sometimes people will get straight from the manufacturer, and sometimes people will modify their ukuleles to have this tuning, is called low G. You just heard it as I picked it up. That first string, the closest string to your face, I should say, because it's actually numbered string number 4, is your G string, and here it's lower. It's a whole 8 notes lower. It's an octave lower. G, C, E, A. It's the lowest note on your instrument now. So the main difference between these 2 tunings, besides how they sound, is that you have a few extra notes on your low G. Sometimes you will get a teaching tool, like an arrangement somebody's made that specifies this is for low G, this works better on high G. Many times it can be played on either one. So a lot of it is about what sound you prefer and what you happen to have. But it is super easy to change strings if you want to go from one to the other. So if you have a low G and you'd rather have high G, you can buy either just the G string or a whole set that is either high or low, and you can switch. Sometimes switching means you have to get your nut, we're about to talk about parts of the instrument, this bar at the top of your neck or fretboard is called the nut. There's little slots in here for the strings. Usually you can switch out without too much trouble, but if you have you know, a low G, a new low G, and you used to have high G, you might need to get some help from a ukulele or guitar shop in order to file down your nut to the right size. I wouldn't suggest doing that at home unless you're really experienced, in which case you're probably not watching this video. But enough on that, because that is a more advanced thing. You can ask me questions about it in the comments if you have questions. But usually you can choose whether you want high G or low G on most sizes of instrument and make either one work. Sometimes when you get down to the really small ones, your G may not, the low G may not fit as well, but many of them you can do either one. Most people who are playing low G are choosing concert or bigger, but you know, I'm sure there are people out there with a low G on a soprano and who are making it work. And one more word about strings before we talk about tuning. The strings you get with your instrument may or may not be good strings. You might want to swap them out right away, or you may love the way they sound and feel, and that's great too. There's two main kinds of strings, nylon and fluorocarbon. If you have one, you might try the other. If you don't know what you have, it's okay just to buy a pack of strings and see how it goes for you. You can switch them out when they start sounding dull and muddy, or when one breaks, of course, or if you run your finger underneath the string and you can feel like the fret wires have been digging in and creating little grooves, and it's starting to feel like it might pop on you one day. But in general, you know, your strings could last you a year or more. They could last you 3 months. A lot of it has to do with how much you play, how hard you play, and what quality the strings are. So if you don't like the strings you have, do swap them out. But know that new strings and old strings sometimes don't hold your tuning very well, which is what we're about to do. So if you're having to tune your instrument a lot, it could just be you have new strings and they need to stretch and settle, and they'll sound better if you play daily for a couple of weeks. Maybe even sooner than that, but it could also be that your strings are old. So if you don't know, when in doubt, swap them out is what I would say. So this is a clip-on tuner. There are many ways to tune your ukulele, and I'm just going to show you this one for the purposes of not overwhelming you, but you don't have to have a clip-on tuner. There are phone apps and things like that too, and it's great to train your ear as well as, you know, you don't want to only rely on the technology. With a tuner like this, there's lots of different brands that people have and like, and most of them will give you like some kind of a color gradient so that when you clip it on your, this is called the headstock, when you clip it on your headstock and you pluck a string, it tells you what note you're playing, and it either is in the yellow, which means that string's a little lower than that note, or in the red, which means that you're a little higher than the note, or the green, meaning you're pretty much dead on. There, can you see a little better? So I'm starting out pretty dead on, and then as it fades, I'm getting a little bit of red, but that's okay. The main sort of tip that I give to my beginners when they're tuning with this is take a little time. You don't need to do it fast. We don't want to like crank it hard and maybe break a string. But it might take a little time to get used to what direction to turn your tuners and which one goes to which string. You can see here that like this one here, if I follow the string down, I'm playing my G string. This one here, if I follow it down, I'm playing my C. But that may take you a little time to internalize, and that's okay. Also, you may have tuners in the back, or they may be on the side, but if you turn them one way, sound's gonna go down while you're plucking. So pluck your string while you're tuning, turn it one way, and it's gonna go up. Turn it the other way, it's gonna go down. I like to tune the way I was taught, by going down first, and then coming up to the green, or however my tuner is showing me a good note. Because if you come up to the note, it's more likely to stay in tune. And if you go too far and it goes into the red, then just come back down and come back up again. Try to hit that green and just readjust if you need to. So you're gonna go do that for each string. G should sound roughly like that. C is a little sharp, so I'm gonna come down. Oops, I'm turning the wrong tuner. I'm looking at my screen and it's mirroring everything and making me confused. So I'm coming, oops, I went too far. Go down and back So now I've got the C and the green. Now I over-tuned my E. And so I'm going to come back up, E, or E flat. Almost there. Went too far, come back down and come back up again. You may find your tuners are more or less responsive. Like you may be able to turn just a tiny bit and go a big difference, or you may have to turn more than I'm turning. But you want to hit your E on that next string, and then A. So I'm going to go down. If you turn it the wrong way, that's okay. And then just turn it the correct way to go back up. I mean, I turned it down on purpose, but I mean, if you don't turn it the way you're meaning to. What am I missing? I missed something. But you didn't get it up enough. It's always A flat. Sorry, I'm looking at it sideways and I can't see that little flat, but I could hear it when I played it. There we go. So, G, C, E, didn't register. There it is, A, little sharp. I would recommend you tune every time you sit down to play, even if you think it's still in tune from the day before or whenever you last played, because it's good to train your ear. It's good to, learn which direction you're turning and how to use your tuner, especially if you're not also looking into a mirror at the same time. And it's just a good thing to do to get your strings even more in tune, even if they're basically in tune. So if you can get a clip-on tuner and tune every time, then that's probably best practice. Some other best practices that you don't have to do would be to trim down the fingernails on the left hand if you are a right-handed player. Those are the fingers that you are going to be making chords with, and it'll be easier to make a lot of the chords, not all of them, but a lot of them will be easier if you have shorter fingernails. I do not keep my fingernails very long at all. When they get more white on them, they start to feel like I can't make my chords correctly, and then I know it's time to trim them again. So that's another thing you might want to do. We started talking about the parts of the ukulele, so let me just finish talking about parts of the ukulele. I talked about the tuners here on the back or side of this is called the headstock, and then directly underneath that I mentioned that this bar across where your strings connect to the fretboard or neck of your ukulele, that's the nut. So technically you've got the neck back here and the fretboard on top of it, but it's really good to know about frets. So let me just say a word about frets. The spaces are your frets, the wires are fret wires. And when someone tells you, like in a video like this, put your finger on the 3rd fret, then you want to go to the 3rd space and scoot that finger close to the wire, but we don't really want it right on top of the wire. We want it to be 1, 2, 3rd space, and then they'll tell you which string usually. There's a couple ways that they might do this. I will usually say the name of the string, so G, C, E, A. A is at the bottom if you're a right-handed player. Some people will tell you the string number, and that is numbered from the bottom up. So like stairs, like going up the stairs, this is string 1, your A, and then string 2 is your E, string 3 is your C, string 4 is your G. So just depending on who you're getting a lesson from, they might do it either way. But you've got spaces and then fret wires. But if someone says, put your finger on the 3rd fret, they mean the space next to the wire, but not right on top of the wire because the sound won't be as good. And then they'll tell you which string to do. And we'll do a little bit of that in a minute. I just wanted to mention that. Frets are really important in learning how to play songs on ukulele, and being able to count your frets is helpful, but also most of them have little dots here. Usually, sometimes we have them on the 3rd fret as well, but this one has 5th, 7th, 10th, and 12th, which is pretty standard. And if you have a bigger size ukulele, you may have more down here too, because you may have a longer neck. So how to hold the instrument is probably the next thing that's helpful. And most times you'll hear teachers teach different things, and I know I'm going to get comments from people who will say that's not how I was taught or that's not correct, but there's several different versions of correct. Many beginners like to have a strap, but you do not need to have a strap. Many people like to rest an ukulele on their knee like I'm doing, but it's also good to practice holding it against your body because you'll be able to play standing up and in different positions, and you may not always, especially with a smaller ukulele, it may not always be comfortable for you to hold it on your knee. So in general, it's good to practice some, even if you're sometimes using a strap or resting it on your knee, with it sort of clasped under your arm, but where your arm meets the body of the ukulele will depend a lot on the size and shape of your arm and your torso and your ukulele. So for me, I kind of hold it here above, it's kind of mid forearm, and I'm going to have that kind of like a lever, like kind of clamped a little bit down, and I want my fingers to be able to stroke the strings roughly around where the fretboard meets the body of the instrument above the sound hole. But you'll also see people do this and do this. You're going to see a lot of different things. And if you're using a strap, you may be holding the instrument more like this, you may be angling it up more like this, but in general, I teach my beginners to sort of think of this, what we might call seatbelt position, if you've ever ridden in a car, this diagonal position across your body as being a good way to hold the neck of the ukulele so that it's kind of coming up here towards what I guess would be 10 o'clock if I'm looking straight ahead at a clock. This is about my 10 o'clock position. So that's a good position for many chords. Now, with anything you're playing, if it's hurting you, pause and try to figure out why. So it's important not to clamp in or overextend out this way, or to always have your shoulder way up high. Like try to be, if a strap helps you with this, that can often be really helpful. Try to be shoulders down, relaxed arm position, and when you're making your chords, be mindful of not crunching your hand into uncomfortable positions. Again, if it's causing you pain, we got to stop and figure out why, because we don't want to cause any kind of repetitive injury or anything, or repetitive stress injury, anything like that. So another thing about holding the instrument, this is something that Cynthia Lynn, who I learned from, calls handshake position. If you put your hand out like you're going to shake someone's hand with your left hand, and you rest the nut of the ukulele, remember that's where the headstock and the fretboard come together, that bar. If you rest your nut roughly there on the top of that knuckle at the bottom of your index finger, that is a nice sort of home base for your hand, especially for beginner chords. It doesn't mean you won't have to move your hand around sometimes. You won't be able to keep it there always, but it's a good place to start for beginners. So think about using that as another point of contact, especially if you're holding the instrument and you're against your body like this and you don't have a strap, because you don't want it to fall and bang. If you are resting it on your knee, though, you can also use this handshake position. And you should be able to reach up to about the 5th fret with your fingers in this position, but you can also slide it along any chords that you can make while also keeping a point of contact here on the bottom of your fretboard and neck can be helpful. A word about the thumb. Some people will tell you your thumb should never peek up over the edge, but I've actually watched some videos from professional teachers with a lot more experience than me who have said it's okay if sometimes your thumb peeks up, especially depending on the chords you're making. As you go on to play more advanced chords, you may find sometimes you just need that thumb to peek up a little bit. But a home base for your thumb, a place you want to go back to in beginner chord land, is the back of the neck, roughly behind the 2nd or 3rd fret, so that you have a little bit of counter pressure back here. You know, I can do that in my handshake position. I can do handshake position and also have my thumb on the back of the neck. The pad of my thumb gives me a little bit of counter pressure so that as I'm making my chords, I'm not only squeezing from the top, I'm also have a little bit of something behind, steadying and stabilizing my chord shape. So try to come back to the thumb on the back if you find it coming way up here in the beginner chord land. And then as you go on to playing more and making more chords, it is an acceptable position to sometimes have the thumb up. I would avoid making chords with your thumb. Sometimes beginners do this. I've certainly seen more advanced players do this, but they're usually self-taught, which is okay. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with being self-taught, but this can get uncomfortable if you're doing it a lot. And it can be harder to move between chord shapes. So in general, most teachers will tell you to avoid doing the thumb over the edge of the instrument. But, you know, I can't tell you what to do. I'm not your boss. All right, so another thing I like to tell people when they're holding the instrument is try to avoid having your sound hole tilting more and more up to your face. This is common because we're looking down to see what chords we're making and we're trying to make sure we're doing them right, and it comes up more and more. When you start strumming, in my opinion, it makes it harder to strum. It is easier for me to teach people strumming patterns and different kinds of ways to strum, even if you're not learning patterns, if that sound hole is kind of pointing straight out like a laser beam coming from your chest or your stomach, depending on where you're holding it, because you could hold it at different heights based on your anatomy and what's most comfortable for you. But that sound hole should be pointing straight ahead, not up towards the ceiling. I'm just looking over at my notes here to see if I want to say anything else. So Oh, people often ask me about picks too. Sometimes when I teach kids, they want to pick because the strumming hurts their fingers. And they usually want some kind of soft or flexible. They're felt picks or rubberized or kind of leathery picks. But it's not really necessary to have a pick unless you're needing it for your own fingers or you just prefer strumming that way. Most people will teach ukulele with bare hand strumming, and we'll talk more about strumming in a few minutes, but you don't need a pick. You can try one out and see if you like it, but you'll see more people playing without picks than with picks. There's a place for picks though, certainly, and I'm not a naysayer saying you can't use a pick. Of course you can. You can use a pick, you can use a strap, you can have high G or low G. Again, make it work for you. So a word about the next thing we're going to talk about. I don't want this video to be too long. I just want to go into a few chords and a little tiny bit about strumming. And then if people are interested, I can make more videos in this series. I wouldn't want to overwhelm a student on their first day, whether or not this is your first day. I'm treating this video like it is. Strumming, playing chords, singing along if you want to sing along, and doing things in the rhythm and melody and sort of the musical composition that you want to emulate. Those are all parts of your brain that are working and different parts of your body. You've got two hands going. You've got maybe also your mouth and your voice. All of these things add layers of complexity. The more as beginners or even more advanced players working on harder things, the more we can strip things down to one skill at a time, often the easier it is to put it back together later. So when you're getting overwhelmed, it's often good to step back and say, okay, let's not try to do strumming with this. Let's just do real simple down strums, which I'm going to show you in a minute, and we'll work on the chords. Or let's not do the chords, and we'll do what I call scratch strumming. Place our hands loosely over the neck of the ukulele and just do strumming so that we're not even playing any chords, and we'll just forget about this for a while. Or we won't sing along and we'll use a play along video and we'll listen to somebody else singing along while we play. So there's always ways of simplifying and making things, working on one skill at a time, also slowing it down, or working with a metronome so you've got some rhythm to stick to. So there's lots of things we can talk about in future videos, but in general I just want to say it is hard to say sing and strum at the same time for most people, and especially if you've never played an ukulele or another instrument like this before. So don't be hard on yourself if you're having trouble putting skills together into things that feel like songs. It doesn't mean you can't start playing simple songs right away when you play the ukulele, but depending on how ambitious you are and how fast you are off to the races, you may find yourself running into some difficulty when you're trying to put things together. Or you may be a natural and maybe you don't have that trouble, and that's great too. But more people I work with say, oh, it's hard to sing and strum at the time. Oh, it's hard to do this strumming pattern and do the chords at the same time. Oh, now it's hard to switch strumming patterns or switch to picking on the chorus or whatever it is they want to do. All right, so I want to show you a few simple chords, the beginning of what I would call my beginner toolkit for chords. And my idea is I could show you a few in this video and a few in the next video, and then we could be playing some pretty common chord progressions after we have about 5 chords. So it's not, we could do it all in one video, but I'm just trying to simplify this a little bit. So I want to show you on screen my handout and talk about a few things about making chords. And we're going to keep in mind the things I already said about shorter fingernails are usually useful, about fret spaces next to the fret wire, not on top of it, and about not making your neck or shoulder or hand crunch into uncomfortable positions. Let's put this handout on the screen. Let me just find the right one. Okay. So this handout again is free on my Patreon post, which is also free, so you can just grab it and download it if you want it. Now, we're looking at the neck sideways when we look at this. These diagrams can be a little hard to get used to. This is not how most chords are shown. I'll show you that on the next screen. But in general, if we're looking down, if you turn your ukulele and look at it, I'm doing it towards me, but it would go like this towards you, but it would be the other way around. If you turn your ukulele so that you're looking straight ahead at the sound hole and fretboard of your instrument, you are going to be seeing this view. This is your nut on the left, and then you've got the first 5 frets on this particular diagram. And again, you may have a dot in the middle of your 5th fret. These 4 lines running from left to right are your strings. So you've got G down here at the bottom because we've turned it toward us. C, E, A. And I'm just trying to show you that in general when making chords, it's great to assign 1 fret space to each finger. So I'll turn my ukulele now and show you that most of the time if I'm playing a chord that has, you know, a fairly simple beginner shape, and I've got a finger that needs to go on the 1st fret space, I'm going to use my index finger. If I've got a finger that needs to go on the 2nd fret space, I'm going to use my middle. 3rd, my ring, and 4th, my pinky, which for most of us is our weakest finger. So let me show this. I'll stop sharing and show this up closer. So I'm thinking about my 4 fingers being in the first 4 fret spaces. I'm not going to make a chord like this, but I'm just going to use that as a home base. I may need to make adjustments that may not work for every chord, but that is where I'm going to sort of start when I'm troubleshooting how I want to play my chord, because there are multiple ways to play every chord on the ukulele, and some of the same shape will have 2 different names, and 3 different people can play it 3 different ways. So again, we're going to keep this simple for the first lesson, but there's always adjustments that can be made. So if you're having particular difficulty with a chord, we can re-strategize it. We could, if you know, you were my student, or you can do that with your teacher, or you can do it on your own. You can leave me comments and let me know, hey, I'm having trouble with this chord, and I could even like make a short video about that. But in general, I'm going to use this as a default, just like I'm using thumb on the back of the neck as a default, and then we're going to adjust as we need to. So that's our home base. Now when we actually look at most song sheets and books, we're going to see chords printed that look more like this. So it's actually looking as if you're looking straight up and down at the neck of your instrument. This can take a little bit of brain wrapping around sometimes. So let's just look at these first ones down here. These 2 chords are showing you information in these diagrams, and you may already know how to read these, in which case feel free to skip ahead. Usually we've got the chord name at the top. This is an A minor 7, this is a C. You'll just see the little m's mean minor and the big ones mean major, or sometimes it'll say M-A-J for major. And then below it, I've written in where your strings are going. So this now is the nut. Remember, it's turned like you're looking at the instrument straight up and down, parallel to your face. The headstock is at your face level. So you're looking at the G, C, E, A strings from left to right. If you're a right-handed player, again, if you're a lefty and you made it this far, your brain is terrific. And then it's showing you the fret spaces running from top to bottom. So 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret with a dot on it, 4th fret. Sometimes you'll see 5 frets, but this one particular chord diagram font has 4. Sometimes you might see a little number off to the side, and that'll mean you're starting on a different fret, but I don't want to talk about that now because that's not going to be something most beginners will run across. And again, we can talk about that in future videos if we need to. But in general, you just need to sort of internalize through practice and repetition that these are your 4 strings and these are your fret spaces. So when I see a dot showing me where to put a finger, I can count until I know just by looking at it. Eventually you'll know just by looking at it. But if I need to, I can count 1, 2, 3rd fret space, and I can look at the strings. I can say this is on string A or string 1 if you're using the numerical system. And then I would put a finger on the 3rd fret of my A string. Now if I'm using home base and I'm on the 3rd fret, I'm going to use my ring finger. So let's just default to trying this C with our ring finger on the 3rd fret, 1, 2, 3 of our A string, and strum with your thumb or your index finger down from your G to your A string with that finger pressed and your thumb behind it. Let me take off the share and do it so you can see my fingers a little bigger. I'm using my ring finger, 3rd fret of my A string, which is string number 1, closest to the ground. I'm taking my thumb and I'm going down with the pad of my thumb each string. Now, if you're playing this and something clunks, sometimes you need to play each string one at a time to figure out which string sounds weird. Oh, it's my A string. Well, it's the only finger I have down, but let's say it wasn't. Then I might have to adjust how much I'm pressing. And I can do that with both my finger and my thumb. Now, could you play the C chord with your middle finger or your index finger? Yes, and in some songs you may want to, but we're just going to start with it on the ring finger. If it's the only way you can play this with your index finger, play it that way. But it'll be easier to move to more chords from your ring finger using that home bass system. Again, that doesn't mean you'll do it in every song, but we're trying to keep it simple. So that's your C chord. And if you're strumming with your index finger, just a quick word on that, start out by looking at the pad of your finger. You're actually going to turn it so that your nail is coming down across the strings above the sound hole. So again, this is the sweet spot between the sound hole and the top of the body of the ukulele. You can hold your thumb and your finger together to stabilize it, almost if you're holding an invisible pick, if that helps you. And it's good to take that nail, try not to do the side of your finger because that could cause a little bit of a sore there. Take your nail straight down. So you can do thumb strumming or nail strumming. There's other ways to strum too, but we're going to stick with those two to begin, but do whichever one's more comfortable for you. A lot of beginners start with thumb strumming. I would encourage you to eventually also do some index strumming, but again, whatever's making it fun, whatever's keeping you playing. So, index, just strum through your C chord a couple times. No rhythm needed. See if you can make all 4 strings sound. You can go slowly, stopping on the next string. You can go more quickly. That's your C chord. Now on that same page was an even easier chord, which is fun to know that all 4 of your strings with no fingers on them, which is shown by this diagram that says A minor 7 or AM7 with no dots, no fingers pressed down, then though that's all open strings. You can put your hand in the handshake shape, but then not put any fingers down and strum through. It's a kind of a funny sounding chord, but it is a chord that you will find in songs, A minor 7. Easiest chord to play for most people, I would say, because no fingers down. So that's another one. You can practice going back and forth between those two. Now you may not do that a lot in songs, but you're just getting used to things here. So you can go C, C, A minor 7, A minor 7, and then put your finger back down. C, C, oh, I forgot to put my thumb back. Put my thumb back behind the neck. C, C, A minor 7. And check in with yourself. See, am I holding my wrist in a funny way? Is it causing me pain? It might not right now, but if it's going to cause me pain later, because, you know, sometimes you can see your hand making kind of like a weird, non-natural shape, then you may need to adjust that and come a little more straight on, or adjust where your thumb is. There's lots of things you can do. So the C is usually the first chord taught to people on ukulele. The A minor 7 is kind of a fun bonus. But the C is a very, very useful chord. We are going to play tons and tons of C in ukulele songs. So you're already halfway to playing a lot of songs. You've got a lot of 2 and 3 and 4 chord songs that have a C in them when we're playing on ukulele. Now there's also a variation on the C chord. It's called a C7. All these letter chords have 7s that can be attached to them. We aren't going to learn them all today, but you've got a C7 that is just as easy to play as the C, so I wanted to show it to you. And again, this one is showing you the first fret space and string number 1, which is the A. That's where your finger should go. So see how in C, string number 1 has your finger on 3, and we used our ring finger. Here, string number 1 has your finger on the first fret space. So looking at home bass, I'm going to use my index finger. So, showing it bigger to you off the screen, instead of ring finger on the 3rd fret C, I'm going to use index finger on the 1st fret, same string, A string, C7. Hear the difference between those two? You can go back and forth. C2, C7. 2 and C, ring finger and index finger, and C2, C7, 2. So the C7 is related to the C. You don't need to know music theory now. Similarly, I also have, we just played an A minor 7. There's also an A minor. So we take that 7 away, the opposite of what we just did with the C, where we put a 7 on it. you can see that the A minor is very easy to play, another one finger chord. So this is cool because now we've got one on the 2nd fret. And what does home bass say about 2nd fret? Let's try it with our middle finger. Again, you may end up playing it with your index finger in some songs, or if you need to right now, that's okay too. But if you can, put your middle finger down on the 2nd fret of string 4, which is your G string, and strum through that a couple times. Many people will say minor chords sound sad. They're not always used in sad ways, but you may find that feels that way to you too. So in that case, we now have 4 chords you have learned. A minor 7, open strings, C, 3rd fret of the A string, I use my ring finger, A minor, middle finger, 2nd fret of the G string, reach it over there, keep it up on its tip, keep that thumb behind, and C7 with my index finger on the A string, which is your bottom string. These chords are often going to be found together in similar songs, but they're going to be found in all kinds of songs for ukulele. I want to teach you one more chord today, and that's it for today. Today, the other chord I want to teach you is a 2-finger chord. So if you have not played F before, then this is a 2-finger chord for you. This is where most people start with 2-finger chords. And F often is going to come in songs with these other chords as well. So you're going to see C and A minor and F in a lot of songs. And we're getting the building blocks. This is why I'm calling this the Ukulele Toolkit. The building blocks of a lot of songs for ukulele players. Now, again, you don't need to know music theory. You can play songs in lots of different keys, but there are some standard chord progressions, like the way that one chord follows another, and many times ukulele players will find themselves playing C, A minor, and F, if not right in a row, really close together, and we'll talk about that more in a later video if people are interested. The F chord, you've got 1st fret, 2nd string, which is your E string, and 2nd fret, 4th string, G string. And again, looking at home bass, I'm going to use index finger for the 1st fret note and middle finger for the 2nd fret note. So that means I'm playing this with my index finger on the 1st fret of my E string and the middle finger on the 2nd fret of my G string. And then strum through that, it should sound like this. I'm going to take this off the screen and talk to you just a little bit about hand shape. When we start adding in more fingers, it often becomes even more important to keep our fingers up on their tips, on their tiptoes. And Bernadette, or Platzi, Bernadette teaches music, likes to say, keep a house for a mouse in the curvature of your hand. You want to be able to have a little pet mouse imaginarily sitting in your hand here, or a ping pong ball. Think about that curvature space. We don't want to flatten it out. We want to leave a nice dome of our fingers on top. So we're curving our fingers over to rest on their tips and strumming through that shape. F. Try playing it a couple of times. So the next thing to work on is moving from one chord to another. And you can do this randomly yourself just for practice. You could pick any chord you know and then go to any other chord you know. So you can say, I'm going to go from C to A minor, which is the 2nd fret of your G string, and then back to C and back to A minor. You can just practice that. Just one strum per switch. Or you can go from C to F, your 2-finger chord. And notice when we're using our ring finger here, we've got our F fingers free if we're going to use our index and our middle. So this is kind of part of why the home bass works for a lot of these beginner chords. You're going to put your index and your middle finger down for that F, and you've still got your ring finger ready if you want to go back to C. Now you might notice A minor chord is held in your F chord. The same note that you play for A minor, G string 2nd fret, is in the F chord. So if you're going from F to A minor, you only have to lift one finger and put it back down. That's an even easier switch. Index finger down and it's an F. Index finger up and it's an A minor. So that's pretty cool. we can play a few simple songs just using these 4 chords that we've already learned. So let me show you these on the screen, and then we're going to call it quits for today, and you've got plenty to work on, as well as thousands of other videos on YouTube that you might also be playing along with. And if you want me to build on this toolkit, we can do a second video. All right, so going back to this song sheet. You could play a song with 1 chord, but I'm going to come back to this as your homework. Again, you don't have to do it, but I will come back to that idea in just a second. What I'd like to start with is a 1-chord song called The Ghost of John, which is a Halloween song that I teach to my kids. And you've got here, sometimes you'll see this on chord charts, not always, where it tells you what finger they want you to use, index being 1, middle being 2, ring being 3, and pinky being 4. So this is telling you the same way we just did. 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. It's just giving you even more information. If you strum every so often, we're going to talk more about meter and tempo and rhythm later in another video. But if I count 1, 2, 3, 4 and strum on every 1, that's going to work on this song the whole way through without changing chords. So if I start 1, 2, 3, 4. Have you seen the ghost of John? Long white bones with the rest all gone. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Wouldn't it be chilly with no skin on? That is a song that you can play with 1 chord, the A minor. And if you couldn't hear the beats falling behind that, let's do it one more time, and I'll tap out the beats on the body of my instrument so you can hear that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can play a metronome. Google has a free metronome. If you just type metronome into Google search, you can do that and give yourself 4 beats to work with and make it slower or faster. You can also change my speed on the YouTube video by clicking on the gear icon and then changing the video speed. So I'm going to tap out the beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Have you seen the ghost of John? Long white bones with the rest all gone. Ooh, ooh. Wouldn't it be chilly with no skin on? I'm not going to play through every song in this packet, but what I've given you is a series of songs that are 1 or 2 chord songs. And I've shown you a couple different ways people will notate when you change chords. Some people are going to put it in what we call inline, in parentheses or brackets in line with the text, and they will put the change of chords right before the word that you change the chord on. And so, for example, for Deo, we're going between our F and our C7. When you're going between F and C7, you're going to need to move that index finger 1 string away to the A string and lift your middle finger. But you want to lift it way away because you want to come right back to it. So when you come back to the F, you're going to probably plant your middle again and shift that index finger back down. So your index is going from A to E string. A when you're playing C7, E when you're playing F, and the middle has to be there too on the G string 2nd fret. So you can just practice going between F and C7, back to F, back to C7. Again, slow me down with that gear icon if you need to. F, C7. And then when you start playing a song that has chords you know, but you don't really know the song yet, it's great, first of all, to start with songs that you can hear in your head how they're supposed to go. Like if you've never heard Deo before, this might not be the best place to start. But if you know the song well in your head or to sing along in the shower kind of thing, even if you've never played it on an ukulele, it can sometimes be easier to figure it out. But we're not going to worry so much about the rhythm here. We're just going to change chords where it shows to change chords. And we're not going to do the whole song, but I'll just show you how it works. So I'm going to count us in, but when you're playing on your own, if you're not doing it in rhythm, that's okay. Just practice changing the chords. Go as slow as you need to do in order to change chords cleanly. So if I start out 1, 2, 1, 2, Deo, me say Deo. Daylight come and me won't go home. Another F. Day-o, me say day-o. Daylight come and me won't go home. So you could practice going through a song like that, changing chords where it shows to. Sometimes I'm going to show you the chords on the top of the line over the word where you're going to change chords. And some of the chord sheets you find online will have these in the incorrect place, and you may have to use your own judgment sometimes to fix them. But in the best case scenario, they've done it correctly. I hope I've done it correctly here. This one, we're going to be going back and forth between F and C. So we did this earlier. For me, when I go between F and C, it's helped if I'm playing that C with the ring finger, and then I put my other two fingers down for the F, which you might be slow, and that's okay. So for this one, just to show you how the chords move through the beginning of this, we won't play the whole song, but there's another one you can work on. And I'm just going to change, now I'm just going to do it where it shows the chord changing. I'm not even going to worry about rhythm. I'm just going to do a single strum everywhere it shows a new chord. So let's try 1 and 2. And my grandma and your grandma were sitting by the fire. My grandma told your grandma, I'm gonna set your flag on fire. Talking about hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now, Iko, Iko on day. Giacomo fino ai nine, Giacomo fino nay. As you get more comfortable with those chord changes, you can start adding in some of the other beats. Again, if you're tapping your foot or nodding your head or listening to a metronome, you could do strumming all 4 beats if you want. My grandma and your grandma were sitting by the fire. If that's not what you're ready for yet, that's okay too. But that's something you can start to do, is fill in those beats a little bit. Other examples of songs you could play this way include the 1 bottle of pop, 2 bottle of pop song you may have learned as a child. I did. At my son's school, they still sing it. And Sing It in the Rain, this version is high, but it goes back and forth between those 2 chords. Singing in the rain. You can sing it low, or I'm singing in the rain. Keep on the F. Just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling. I'm happy again. That's more of the F to C7. And for advanced homework, if you're feeling up to it, I would recommend you do something that I call intuitive strumming, meaning you don't need to know a strumming pattern. You may have heard about strumming patterns already. You may already be trying to learn things like island strum, which is often the first one beginners work on. There are as many different ways to approach strumming as there are people. And many people love a strumming pattern, and we can certainly talk about them more. I've talked about them in other tutorials. But some people don't care about a strumming pattern. They just want to strum it like they're feeling it, and I think that's great. So with a 1 chord song, that's even more fun, I think. This song has the C7 all the way through. So you can do, brother bought a coconut, he bought it for a dime. His sister had another one, she paid it for a lime. I'm just hitting beats. You can hit beats faster. Brother bought a coconut, he bought it for a dime. You can hit them slower. Brother bought a coconut, he bought it for a dime. When you feel like experimenting, do some down and up movements with your hand. And when you're doing up strums, usually we're strumming down with our nail or our pad of our thumb. So index, nail, thumb, pad. If we're strumming up with our index, we're going to hit the pad. If we're strumming up with our thumb, we may hit the nail. So it's opposite, right? And you can practice up and down on that C7. She put the lime in the coconut and drank them both up. Or you can let yourself go a little wild and just strum however you're feeling it. You don't need to have a strumming pattern, and you can just kind of like play around with it. I would recommend trying that. If you've ever heard Lime in the Coconut, or if you can listen to the Muppets or Harry Nilsson or Harry Belafonte, anybody sing it, listen to it and just strum how you're feeling it. It's good to practice without any prescribed strumming patterns sometimes, so we can kind of get into the groove of the rhythm a little bit, and don't worry about whether you're doing it right or wrong. Just make it fun for you. And if there's other songs you're working on because you're not quite that beginner, you don't need a one chord song, then do some practice on intuitive strumming. You could even watch my whole video on intuitive strumming if you're a more advanced player who for some reason has been watching this whole video, which thank you very much. But I want to leave the lesson there. So I want to end our Beginner Toolkit Part 1 there. We've got 5 chords, C, C7, A minor, A-minor 7, and F. So 5 chords to start with, a handful of songs you could practice, 2 ways to strum, thumb or index finger. Don't worry about the rhythm too much. Just practice the motion of index or thumb. Practice thumb for a while, then practice index for a while, whatever is working for you. And try to keep some of our fundamentals in mind, our home base, our handshake position, our thumb on the back of the neck, making sure that everything's feeling good in our body and we're not getting sore and crampy from the way that we're holding the instrument as well. Leave me comments. Let me know if you want me to make another video in this series. Let me know what's helping you the most, even if it's not a tip I gave you, but something other teacher gave you. I always try to credit people when I learn things from other teachers. So I love to hear what other teachers are teaching as well. And if you are too far advanced for this, but you watch it anyway, again, thank you. But also, I have tons of other tutorials in this series and also on Patreon as well, and many, many covers and originals that I have not taught yet. So leave me a request. Let me know what you would like to learn at the level that you are at, and what we should talk about next. Thanks again, folks. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day and or evening, wherever and whenever you are. And I will see you on the internet. Bye, folks. Have fun playing.